Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go.
Back to school. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Thursday, 12/12/24. And Rodney Dangerfield must be happy right now because Bill Belichick is going back to school in what has to be maybe the greatest upset in the history of coaching, with all due respect to Bill Walsh and Rick Pitino, any of the other coaches who go from the pros to college to the pros. Forget Harbaugh, forget them all. Bill Belichick, arguably the greatest coach in the history of the NFL, notwithstanding having the greatest quarterback, notwithstanding having the almost Hall of Fame owner. How about being in the teens away from the all-time winningest coach in the history of the NFL? Yes, that's code for me having forgotten the exact number. He's behind Don Shula and my earpiece not working. How about the rumor of Bill Belichick going to North Carolina? What's the thread there? Is it about his father? Is it about his son? Is it about the 5-year contract? Is it about him saying to the NFL, stick it up your NFL? Or is it about Bill Belichick saying to himself, he's going to make some history. He's going to show Robert Kraft, Tom Brady, and all the owners, including you, Arthur Blank. Yes, that's right, Arthur Blank. You had an opportunity to hire Bill Belichick and make this segment, poof, disappear. But instead, you went a different direction, back to the comfort zone that you had in Atlanta, and Bill Belichick went right to the microphone. And he filled up his calendar, and he realized, I really miss being an architect, because he was being a guest on a bunch of shows and making a bunch of money, thinking about his next move, and enjoying dilly-dallying with whoever it is that he would like to dilly and dally. But truthfully, what he loved was teaching men. Sometimes young men, older men, pros, college, didn't matter. And then, when college became just like the pros, he had not 32 teams he could think about. He had about 200 teams he could think about. So when forging a partnership with North Carolina, how do you do it? What do you start with? It's one word, and it starts with C. It's called control. Bill Belichick will be in complete control. So much so, he hired a GM to come with him. That's right, college teams have GMs now. Don't forget that. Very important. Mike Lombardi gets off the air, and he's doing a show on Vision, and he says, Bill, you're offering me to get off the mic and become the GM of a Division I ACC team that's been basically down in the dumps but has such a fantastic name, facilities, possibilities, and you get to run the entire program? Well, we're going to need one more thing, Billy boy, before I come with you. We're going to need some support. And I don't mean the thing that old people use where you get your back support or a walker or anything like that. I'm talking about enough support to bring the salaries that will be paid to the players from $5 million last year up to $20 million this year. That's right, what they're calling NIL increase. No, it's really what the salary of the team will be. He was given a $20 million number, basically quadrupling. It's really tripling 5 to 20, but 15 plus 5. But people say quadrupling because 5 times 4 is 20. Doesn't matter. 5 to 20. What's he going to do with that money? He's trying to build a program. You have to listen to some of these quotes because I couldn't believe it when I read it. Let's start with what he said. Bill Belichick himself. I'm excited for the opportunity at UNC Chapel Hill. That's like when you go to Wisconsin, you have to say Wisconsin-Madison because God forbid you think it's Stevens Point. Not that there's anything wrong with Stevens Point, but UNC Chapel Hill. I grew up around college football with my dad and treasured those times. Boy, isn't it true that all sons, like me, are always trying to figure out how to get the approval of their father, how to figure out how to maneuver around so that you can not just be yourself, but have a light shone upon you and have the father looking over you saying, I approve, Billy boy. His hiring is going to cause something that I'm not sure we're going to talk about in a lot of different shows today, but I wanted to talk about it here. Before I get to some of the other quotes, I'm sorry, Coca, I just want to get to this point. Can you imagine if what college football, what we thought would happen and what we have basically talked to you about with salaries and with no salary cap, no union because the Dartmouth union is a mess, the college basketball players. Can you imagine that there's no collusion so anyone can talk to anyone about any amount of money that's been given to any player? So it really is about who your alums are. You talk about varsity blues. Varsity blues was something where people were getting into college without having the bona fides to get into that college because people were lying about what they did or what their extracurriculars were in order to gain college acceptance. Some people went to jail. Some people lost their ability to make a living. But at the end of the day, this was about universities trying to find an end around to stuff their class and their teams. There's no more end arounds anymore. If you are from a wealthy family, and I'm talking about not the top 1%, I'm talking about the top 1/10 of 1%, you basically get your pick of the litter, and not in the way that you used to that required some sort of donation to the endowment or to the capital fund of the school. Now what you will be asked to do in order to get yourself into a school is donate to the students themselves. Not the scholarships, but the actual salaries that the players will get paid. Think about what the recruiting is, not for the athletes. Think about the recruiting of the wealthy kids. Come to UNC. I want you, I want your whole family. And look what you're going to get for your $1 million. You're going to get the number 1 5-star quarterback. On top of that, you're going to get access to the players on the field, and you'll get to hobnob with Bill Belichick. Well, what about that is a problem in your mind? Nick Saban looked at the future, which he knew was coming, and he said, I don't want to be a part of that. It's as though Nick Saban said, I don't want to be the coach of a professional team, which is why you'll start seeing the flow go the other way. But this year we saw Jim Harbaugh go from Michigan to the Chargers. I think what you're going to see going forward is NFL coaches, whether they're the top assistants, and I don't mean the Eric Bieniemys who couldn't get it done at UCLA. I'm talking about the ones who want the type of control that is not being handed out the way it used to be. The type of control that Vrabel wanted before he got canned. And now that type of control is available in an atmosphere in college where you get to deal with the top players and you get to treat it actually like a team. We say the portal, which is open now and has record number of students. I keep calling them students, Coca. That's not right. The portal, which has a record number of employees. No, I keep calling, they're not employees. Hold on, we'll get the right word. The portal, which has a record number of athletes playing on college teams, switching from team to team as they shop their 1-year free agency to get the highest number. You're seeing the player movement in a way that you don't get to see except in my dreams at the big league level. And the result is that there's no affinity for the actual player. It's just affinity for the actual team. And that's exactly what we wanted to do in professional sports. We wanted people to love the front of the jersey and not the back of the jersey. We wanted people to have reckless disregard to whether or not a player came, a player went, was he signed, was he not signed. But something got screwed up along the way. Where in professional sports, people were all about the player and who it's going to be and how long they're going to be there. College has it right. It doesn't matter who the player is. It matters, do you make the CFP? It matters what your payroll is going to be. It matters your performance that particular year. And then that's it. This signing by Bill Belichick, believe me, this is the start of a major wave and trend that is going to find heads of college programs with total control over the program they decide to join. Major League Baseball has been top of news pretty much all week. The winter meetings in Dallas have come to a close. I never wanted to be the last one out of the suite because you got to clean the suite, pick up all the candy. Shout out to Jessie, our fantastic makeup woman who brought me a full new bag of candy because she sullied my bag of candy yesterday. Thank you, Jessie. The last one out of the suite in Dallas, or wherever the winter meetings are, they have to clean up all the candy. They have to take all the supplies. They check like 3 bags to get back to their hometown, whether it's Florida or Houston, wherever you're going. Although I assume they would drive to Houston. I actually don't know that. So the winter meetings ends, and it got me thinking. There was a huge trade yesterday. The Boston Red Sox countered the Yankees signing of Fried by trading for Garrett Crochet, who people are telling you is a number 1 starter, an ace, a young ace. It's an interesting decision by the Red Sox. Max Fried, Garrett Cole, Corbin Burnes, Nathan Eovaldi, they have something called the TR, as we used to call it in the room in baseball. TRs used to matter. TR is a track record. An LTTR is even better when you have a long term. That's what it is. Garrett Crochet, what exactly has he done? He's only entering his 2nd year of arbitration. He's got 2 years until free agency. He had Tommy John. He missed the 2022 season. Last season, his ERA was 3.58, and he pitched 146 innings. But there was something about his metrics, and all the statisticians and analytics people say, this is an ace in the making. So the Red Sox said, what are prospects for? They traded 4 of their top prospects to the White Sox in order to get Crochet. And it got me thinking about when you're in the room and you're watching your division make moves. You're watching the Blue Jays trade for Andres Gimenez. You're watching the Yankees sign Fried. You know that the Orioles are the Orioles and they're in their window right now. And you know that the Red Sox, the fans are nervous and upset and uptight. There's anger, but there's also financial realism. There is an understanding because Fenway Sports Group has a lot of different assets. They've got owners and they've got P&L, and there's an understanding that there is a limit and that being a drunken sailor is only fun when you're drunk. Waking up the next day, it's not so good. And the Yankees are going to wake up tomorrow. The Mets are going to wake up tomorrow. The Red Sox say, we'll wake up tomorrow. We've got Garrett Crochet. We get our fans saying, wow, what a big trade. Some people saying they traded too many prospects. They're too good. It's absolute poppycock. You have no idea. I can look at the list. Oh, they got the number 4, 5, 12, 17, and 69th prospect. Will one of them hit? Maybe. The White Sox can start their rebuild so they get that PR. And the Red Sox say, hey, what's the farm system for but to make our big league team better? So they put Crochet in. They say they now have a top-of-the-lineup guy. And I just keep thinking to myself, when it comes to this, that the Red Sox were forced into doing this by some sort of weird deadline that was the end of the winter meetings. Because everyone was hot after Fried signed. Burnes hasn't signed. Why is Crochet all of a sudden this hot? Because last year's deadline? Remember, he's the one who we pilloried for saying that if you trade me, you better give me an extension and I won't pitch out of the bullpen for you. And I told you, wait to see, no one's going to trade for him. Last deadline. Now people are trading for him like the Red Sox. You put him in your rotation. You do not sign him to an extension. If the Red Sox do that, which they are want to do, so I doubt they will. But as a matter of fact, Coca, can we do this? An official wait to see. Will you book it in the document? The Boston Red Sox will not extend Garrett Crochet this season. They need to see what they have with him. But the winter meetings ending shouldn't be this moment of panic that I have to get something done. But teams feel as though when they leave the winter meetings, and I remember this feeling very well, you feel like that's it, that your team is put together. You've got spring training right around the corner. Because the way the baseball calendar is in the heads of every executive is that the last 2 weeks of December, no one's doing anything. Then when the calendar turns to the first week of January, you are solely focused on heading south to Florida, heading north if you're from Miami, heading to Arizona. Spring training is around the corner. And baseball executives and owners have this weird feeling that, is this what we have? Do we have enough? Do we need to add a few wins? Have we closed the gap far enough? And this flurry that's supposed to happen by the winter meetings in order to appease fans and all the media that spends money to go to Dallas and wait for announcements in order to tell their editors or tell the people who run their expense accounts, hey, you got to send me on the road because major stuff is going to happen. And the commissioner says to the owners, hey, this is about owning this week. Let's please get stuff done during the winter meetings. This is a great opportunity to have the light shine upon us. And as a team executive, my response to that is I fell into it. I got suckered into thinking, oh, God, I got to do this. I want to make our fans and the commissioner and everybody happy by having all of these transactions. But there's no set deadline. Part of what I think we should do is have a deadline. And if you make the deadline the last day of the winter meetings, you'll see a tremendous flurry. Like with the arbitration deadline, with all those players who sign before numbers get exchanged between teams and players. But in the absence of a deadline, why give? What's the reason? Think about the Yankees giving to Fried the next day, and then the Blue Jays the next day, and then the Red Sox the next day. Do you find that to be a coincidence? I absolutely do not. My suggestion would be that short of instituting a deadline and therefore fomenting this type of activity, let it go. Extend the offseason. Put the pressure on the teams who are making the moves, who feel like they've got to maximize the market. Put the White Sox feet under the fire. Put Scott Boras' feet under the fire. You've got a White Sox team where they're absolutely freaking out. They lost 121 games. Chris Getz, the GM, is entering his second year trying to make Grandpa Jerry happy. Doing a deal, is it the best they could have gotten? There is no way to actually know. And by the way, we're not going to know for years. That's the truth of that trade. Meanwhile, we got to talk about Scotty. I told you this was going to happen, Coca. I told you. He actually flies to his winter. Oh, true. Thank you. I keep looking at Coca. He says, don't look at me. Look at the camera. I forgot. We're video. Oh, that's right. I'm dripping with candy-laden makeup. If you're listening to this, you have no idea what I'm saying. You don't know that I'm looking in there. And so many of you are. Thank you. SportsPodcastAwards.com. Best baseball podcast. Thanks for voting. So Scott Boras travels. Now, his minions do, not him. But he's got this backdrop, and it's got his logo on it. And he's not in an MLB area. I want you to keep in mind when we show this video, and if you're listening to this, it's Scott Boras talking to the media. But when teams announce deals in the winter meetings, there's a separate ballroom set up that is run by Major League Baseball. It's the official place where announcements are made. When GMs talk or when presidents talk, it's at their suite, right? Basically in the hallway outside their suite or in part of a different room within the suite of rooms that each team has. Boras doesn't get that. That guy sets up in the lobby, and he does like Bugs Bunny or Ace Ventura, and he sets up his backdrop, and then he spews the biggest crap of all time. And this year, he did not disappoint. Coca?
You know, I think for pitching and Corbin Burnes, it's kind of like Elvis. You know, he's got that Burnesing love for a number one starter. You are really feeling it today, and very early this morning for me, I might add. You know, a lot of market locomotion regarding Pete, and the Polar Bear Express is rolling. There's a new Sean arising, you know, and so it's something that I think teams have recognized, and the demand is really something that I think is going to happen soon. Yeah.
So he was talking about Pete Alonso. That's Polar Bear. Get it? Polar Bear Express. A new Sean arising. Sean Manaea, the pitcher. Get that? Corbin Burnes. He did an Elvis reference. I got a hunk of Burnes in love. Do you think that that's effective? The problem is we make believe it's effective because he gets these deals done for his players. And we're like, was it because of the press conference? Do you think that there's a team? This is what I just wanted to point out about what Boras is doing, just so we're clear how this happens. We're not learning anything as executives from his pressers. We'll watch it over a drink and we'll laugh until we have a side stitch. But we're not saying, we hadn't considered Pete Alonso. Phew. Thank God that we know there's a Polar Express coming. Oh, we didn't realize that other teams were in on Corbin Burnes. We thought we were the only one. And him telling us about the early morning, what? Do I have to wake up earlier to make sure I call Scott to make sure he doesn't sign Burnes somewhere else and I lose him? He trades on the desperation of others, and we allow it. I have a suggestion for the teams out there who have not signed Burnes yet, who are feeling nervous. I'm going to assuage your concerns right now. Whatever Boras says he has, he doesn't have. Whatever he tells you that Burnes is going to do for your team, he's not going to do. Whatever he tells you that Pete Alonso, and I'm talking to you, Steve Cohn, because I know you're listening, and Alex may be too, your wonderful wife. I am thrilled to death with what you're doing in New York. I'm excited for you. But if you think that you have to sign Pete Alonso or else it's the end of the world as you know it, then you are being suckered by Boras. There is no reason. Don't forget the Atlanta Braves with their brilliant GM, Alex Anthopoulos, with their incredible president, Terry McGurk. The success of that franchise is second to none in the last 25 years in my mind. Go back further when they won the division like 14 years in a row, but only one World Series, but it's hard to win the World Series. Do you remember they won the World Series with Freddie Freeman, and then Freddie Freeman went to the Dodgers, and they brought in Matt Olson? Now, injuries have what had the Dodgers win a World Series and the Braves not. The Braves have been one of the best teams in baseball. Without Fried, they're going to hurt a little bit. But players are interchangeable as much as voices are behind the mic, as much as we all are in almost every way. And what Boras traffics in is in you forgetting that he said the same thing about his pitcher last year as he said this year. He always assumes that just because you're an octogenarian that you are going to have lost your wits. It is up to the baseball executives and the presidents to remind their owners that generational talents don't come every year no matter what he says. The problem is that presidents and GMs, their general view is it's NMM. It's not my money. If our owner wants to do this, are we better with Burnes? Of course we're better with Burnes. Are we better with Fried? Yeah. Are we going to be better in year 8? No chance. But I don't have to worry about that because we'll spend around it. We'll release him, or we'll do what the Nationals did. That's what I should have remembered to tell people. Remember when Corbin signed, and it was this whole big deal? It was a huge signing by the Nationals. Do you remember how that deal ended? Don't think about how it began. Think about how it ended. You will smile. Last, I want to talk about Stephen Cohn, one more thing. There was something that happened that I can't let go. I just can't. Stephen Alex Cohn made a statement about Juan Soto, and he's going to be introduced at a press conference today, and I guarantee you that Boras flew from Dallas with his backdrop. He's flying to New York, to Flushing, to Citi Field, and Juan Soto, I haven't read this yet, Coca, but I assume I'm right, that Juan Soto will be introduced today, and it will be at Citi Field. And there'll be a front table, and I promise you SNY will cover it, and you'll take a look at it, and it will have Scott Boras sitting there on the end, because that's where you put him, because he demands to be at the front table. And there'll be a bunch of quotes and a bunch of things that Juan Soto will say. But there's been a lot of talk about the things that we've covered this week, about the suites and about all these different possible things that made a difference. Stephen Alex Cohn gave a quote together about this. This is a seminal moment in franchise history. We all overuse that word, me too. Seminal moments. Seminal. Juan Soto is a generational talent. Where did that come from? He is not only bringing staggering historical statistics with him, but also a championship pedigree. That's true. The Nationals won a World Series in 2019, and the Yankees won a pennant last year. That is true. It is true that he's a generational talent for 2024. That's true, too. And you do bring with you the baggage from your previous years and other teams. You do get to bring your statistics with you because they're on the back of your baseball card. They come with you everywhere. They finished their statement, Steve and Alex Cohn, with this. Our amazing fan base is very excited to welcome Juan to Queens. Congratulations, Juan. I'm sorry, are we congratulating Juan? Are we congratulating the fan base? Are we congratulating ourselves? I think the statement should have been something a little cleaner, a little different. From Mets owner Steve Cohn and his wife Alex. I would like to thank every single person who's ever invested in my fund with me. I would like to thank the market for its appreciation and for all the people working 100-hour weeks who give the rate of return that I get to enjoy and that have made my net worth in the billions. And my net worth has increased since I bought the Mets. I would like to thank Scott Boras for taking the largest contract in history by so much that you'd have to be a moron to say no. I would also like to hereby apologize to Rob Manfred and the other 29 owners because you can't say I didn't warn you during the approval process. When I said that I need to win a World Series and I'll do whatever it takes to do it, you thought that I was joking, but I wasn't. So in closing, I'd like to congratulate myself for telling the truth this entire time. We'll see you at Citi Field. All right, we come back. It's Thursday. We get to review one of my top 100 movies. And there's something going on in the basketball world off the court that got my attention yesterday, and I think it will keep yours too. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It's David Sampson coming at you every day, 8 a.m. live. We're here in Miami. I'm not going to give you the address because we don't want to be burglarized, Elser. I am not in any way going to tell you that I'm not in New York right now because I may be. You don't know. Are we live? Are we on tape? You decide. If you're watching at 8 a.m. and right now it's 8:29 Eastern, thank you. Nothing Personal with David Sampson. That's the YouTube channel. We're on the DraftKings network as well, but if you look at your watch, it's 10:29, leading right into the Le Batard show at 11, much like I'm leading into the live Le Batard show on YouTube at 9. Although strangely, in totally different feeds, Coca. Totally. We're on our own. Totally. Unless Dan crashes in here. But I don't think he will today. On Thursdays, we review a movie. And on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we do also. Don't know why I said that. Thursdays, we review Top 100. You see, I keep a list. please go to davidsampsonpodcast.com. And in another window, go to sportspodcastawards.com, log in and vote for the best sports business podcast, that's The Sporting Class, and the best baseball podcast, that's Nothing Personal. We're trying to get double wins again. We're adding to our background with these awards. Thank you. We got to keep up with Pablo, and Pablo Torre finds out. New episode of Pablo Torre drops today. It's already dropped with Dominique Foxworth, Sharon Tell, and myself. But on davidsampsonpodcast.com, there's a tracking document which gives all of our words of the day, all of our picks of the day, all of the movies, and there's a list of my top 100. And we're going to, for 100 straight weeks, with maybe a few off, we're going to review a movie. Today, it's number 12. It's a movie called Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction is the Quentin Tarantino epic movie with Samuel Jackson, John Travolta, Bruce Willis, Uma Thurman, Ving Rhames, Tim Roth, Amanda Plummer. It's got all these different storylines that all somehow become related. They're filmed and shown to you totally out of order, where John Travolta's alive, but he's really dead. When is he dead? Because you're seeing him alive. Spoiler alert, he gets shot in the can. Don't look at me in that tone of voice, Coca. Pulp Fiction is an older movie. I'd like you to rewatch. If you've never seen it, please give me a break. If you've seen it a while ago, which was the case with me, where you watch just scenes of it when it's on, watching it start to finish is such a wonderful thing, because the brilliance of what Tarantino did in putting this together, both the writing, the editing, the camera angles, everything he did, the dialogue is so perfect. You could have a top 5 list from here to eternity about different plot points, different things that are said by characters. Please go watch it again. Next Thursday, we will be reviewing. There's a spreadsheet that one of you did, which is really cool, that has every movie in the top 100, and it turns a different color when we've reviewed it. I think it's on the website. Coca's going to tell me what we're going to review next week. No Country for Old Men. I love this. We can do this every day. Let's talk about the NBA for a moment. I'm not going to talk about what happened with the Knicks last night. I can't stand the fact. All right, one quick thing. It's insane to me that Trae Young is going to be this generation's Reggie Miller. I can't take it. I don't want to consider that as even an option. I don't view the Hawks as a threat. I don't think about them the way I thought of Indianapolis, the Pacers, with Rick Smits and Dale Davis and Anthony Davis and Haywood Workman. I can't deal with the fact that Trae Young comes into the Garden and makes an issue at center court, the most precious piece of real estate in sports. Don't at me. Center court of the Knicks Garden floor. Notwithstanding how pleased I am and happy for Pat Riley to have the court named after him in Miami, just across the street from here. Center court at the Garden, that's everything. Trae Young treating it like it's his home drove me crazy last night, Coca. But I want to talk about something that's happening off the air, off the court. It's about to happen on the air. There was an entire situation where Woj, who, please get better, he announced it himself that he had and is dealing with prostate cancer. He stepped away to become not a GM, but he's some sort of consultant with his alma mater, St. Bonaventure. And there was a whole big contest about who would be the next insider. And believe me, the interview process had nothing to do with somebody's Rolodex. But that said, it turned out to be people, they affectionately call him Shams. He comes out with little nuggets about trades that are happening or little things that he's hearing about front offices or players. He's known as the insider. He goes on the McAfee show and he goes on ESPN. He gets paid way less than Woj, but way more than most people watching, listening, and doing the podcast. And sometimes he gets called out for it, but not that often. It's almost noteworthy when he gets called out for saying something that's not true, when the irony is that these insiders are either wrong or they're being fed the truth by a source It's not them digging. They answer their phone. That's sort of the misunderstanding with an insider. They're not running from locker room to locker room or working the phones. What they're doing is, now some of them will work the phones. My good friend Ken Rosenthal, working the phones like crazy, getting information from sources that he has. But the best thing that can happen is called the incoming phone call. The incoming phone call is when someone calls you and says, it's not out yet, just a little nugget, we're trading Jimmy Butler. Well, that's a good piece of news. I'm going with that. Breaking news. We're going to get it on the crawl. We're going to get aggregated. We're going to bring attention to the network we're associated with. And then I can make a big salary because that is the currency by which these people get paid. So that's fine. So Shams, with all of his money, decides that he wants to tweet about Jimmy Butler. And the big news that ended up getting aggregated was that we're in the middle of talking about Jimmy Butler. Dan Le Batard, for a second day in a row, totally interrupting, but I assume that you have something that you'd like to add to this, which I would appreciate because you may know Shams in a way that I don't know him. But what we're talking to the audience about is that Shams had this information about Jimmy Butler, and the agent, Jimmy Butler's agent, a guy named Bernie Lee, called him out by name, saying, you have no idea what you're talking about, and you're full of BS. You don't see that too often.
Said he made it up and called him out on making up things. The problem with that is only that agents have a long distinguished history of lying only to protect their clients, and Shams and Woj tend to get most everything right. And once the noise subsides, there's nothing that has stuck to Shams and Woj on wrong whenever an agent does this. So I'm inclined to believe the credible person who doesn't have a bias versus the one who's paid to have one.
But there's no upside. My question that I'm talking about today is what would be Bernie Lee's incentive to be so public going against Shams when there's a possibility, if not an actual probability, that Shams was right? What's there? I can't think of the monetary upside, the loyalty to Jimmy.
The Miami Heat are an intensely private organization. Any information that was coming out through Woj or Shams would never be coming out through the Miami Heat. All of these stories, when they get planted, to me, one of the most fun things to do over the last 10 years is who's incentivized to put this out there? Because once the information guys can use the anonymous stuff, who's the incentive for? And when you ask, what's the agent's incentive? This is a private organization. Jimmy Butler would like to get to wherever his next place is. Whatever the tensions are between him and management, he would like the Miami Heat to help him here. And so this is in protection of, can we keep our privacy? Jimmy Butler's not for sale. The team he's on is the one he's trying to win a championship with. We're not concentrating on money right now. This is for other people to do.
But the problem with that is Jimmy Butler then gave quotes that are attributed directly to him saying, I don't mind being talked about like this. As a matter of fact, any publicity is good publicity, the old adage. So it's not like he and his agent Bernie Lee were on any sort of same page, a strategic page. And number two, Dan, trading Jimmy Butler, not easy because of the rules of basketball. And we can talk about aprons and dollars, and Amin may be better served in your universe to do it.
Well, Phoenix can't. One of the things that was weird about that story yesterday, when you talk about aprons and dollars and all this finance stuff that you have a real fluency in, is that I'm legitimately confused as to why, and as someone who's allegedly an expert on this, how it is that Miami can't make this trade with Phoenix. Whether he wants to go to Phoenix or not, there are too many complications that make aprons and tax hits too hard to make the pieces work.
But what it does is you have to get a third team involved. There's always ways. So when you read about all the different machinations that can happen with teams, the way you get around it with the current CBA is you just put a third team in there who can help do it. And it's complicated. But the bigger story is really, for me, the Shams report was, I never said it, I'm sorry, Coca. The Shams report is that Jimmy Butler would accept a trade. He'd be happy to go to a contender, and there's a new team on the list, the Suns, that can go with the Warriors and the Mavericks and the Rockets, which is funny to see them on anybody's list right now.
Why is that? The Rockets are very good and very young. They
This
could
year
use
they
somebody. Yeah, they could use somebody like
It's
Jimmy
funny
Butler.
to see it because for years they've been bad, and now they brought back the former Celtics coach.
Ime Udoka.
I get it wrong every time.
That's okay. You
Say
don't
it-
have to
say
worry.
it with me, please.
Ime Udoka.
Ime Udoka. Remember how he got let go?
I did so much of this on television. Antetokounmpo, like where you have to learn so many more foreign names because sports has gotten so international.
I just
in
go
America.
Tua, by the way.
I got a funny story there. I did a corporate event with him, and I was practicing on my way over, Tunga Vailoa. And once I got on stage to introduce him, I just said Tua. I got scared of it. And I
Practice.
yeah,
I do get scared too, so I just say Giannis. I'm so thankful they're all like Madonna because I don't need to say
Well, but Ime got you with both the first name
That-
and the
that
last
was-
name. You're having trouble with both of them there. You're not used to Ime's or Udoka's.
That was part of the problem. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I want to get to one more thing if you give me 3 more minutes of your time. Steve Kerr went crazy last night. I don't know if you saw the end of the Warriors-Rockets game.
The Warriors, that was a sluggish basketball game.
It's just very strange to me. Steve Kerr, former player, champion, and the Warriors gave the game away. They were leading, and they had 2 shot clock violations. Dell Curry put up a shot with 9.
Steph Curry. That's okay. Dell is that's all right. That's going to happen to you as the
4,
parents.
8, 69.
The parents have sons, and you're an old man, buddy. You saw him when Dell Curry was the 3-point shooter.
He was
good. Yeah,
He
but
was so
not compared to
good.
his son. He was not. Not
He
at all.
was
Not,
so.
but
Wait
not,
a minute.
Not,
He was one of the best of all time.
no, his son
At
is
his
the best
time.
of all time. Yes, he was great at his time. Well, he was good at his time. Ridiculous to say that he's better than his son.
Well, not in terms of the entire career, but there was a moment that Dell Curry was looked at. I'm not going to spend another second on this. I can't win.
Don't get
I'm giving up.
distracted. Coke is just screaming at
giving
you.
up.
Don't get
That's what he
sidetracked
just
by your
said.
obsessive compulsive need to remember Dell Curry. Get out. Eject.
He's yelling, Kerr.
Get out.
Kerr.
Stay on Kerr. Last night's events, there was news. Sports news. Stop delving into your past thinking about Dell Curry jumpers.
Exactly what
Oh, I
he's
know.
doing.
I saw him.
Do
I
you
saw
hear
him in
it,
there.
or you
I
only
saw him.
see
He's
it?
popcorning and pinballing over there. Nobody cares about Dell Curry. There was a game last night. Steve Kerr can be weaponized as a symbol for sports talk.
Okay, he knows you. I don't know how that happened. We've been here a year and a half, and he's got you completely figured
Stay
out.
on the news.
So-
Dell Curry can't be talked about as a sidetrack.
We only have 12% of our audience who knows who Dell Curry is.
None of your listeners know Dell Curry. Talk about Kerr. You've gone 94 seconds without talking about last night's events.
So Steve Kerr, after the Warriors completely blow the game, he gets on stage or gets interviewed, and he went after the referees in a way that I hadn't seen Steve Kerr lose it. And he's gotten a little more irritable as he's realized that his dynasty's likely over, and he's sort of on the tail end. And he's hanging on and trying to figure out, can he be Popovich?
Although also dealing with the news, alleged news or reports that maybe that LeBron and Jimmy Butler will end up there with Steph Curry, so that the last embers of that won't die quietly. They'll go all win now on the old guys.
Are you willing to say that you think LeBron James is willing to go to Golden State?
I'm just saying I saw reports that suggest that Golden State wants to make a big splash with what. Look, they just came out of the Olympics. Steph Curry is one of the greatest players ever. He's still great, and you want to help him win now in the win now window. And so Jimmy Butler would fit there. Go all in with the old guys and make it some sort of super team that serves Steph Curry. That'd be fun to watch.
I don't believe that LeBron James will be going to Golden State. He's actually more focused on his business, his money-losing business, which just got some investors. It's a movie-making business that has a lot of employees that loses money, but he's very committed to L.A., very committed to being there, so why would he go to Golden State?
I wish you would talk more here and on the sporting class about what's going on in Hollywood, because it is a fascinating time in the economy of Hollywood to see LeBron get all the big meetings, get all the big offers, get all the big capital, but still can't make money because of the ways that movies are being made now.
Well, he grew his company so large. He has 250 employees, and you can, in the movie business, there's not enough business for that. When you have projects, you can hire up to deal with those projects, but then the projects get released, whether they're good or bad, and very few of them make money. But then you've got all these people, you're paying salary, you're paying bonuses, you're paying their benefits, and they're not doing anything. And so then you just need capital because you're bleeding money. And LeBron, they don't go to him and say, oh, you're making $50 million a year with the Lakers. Will you please fund the business? LeBron says, screw that. And then they go get a partner.
David, stay on Kerr. Don't talk about the business of Hollywood. There was a game last night. It was decided by 1 point. It's the 23rd regular season game of the season. It's important you talk about it immediately. Some people woke up and didn't know about the game.
Nobody's coming here to find out what happened in the Rockets-Warriors game. They can figure that out. They know that I picked the Rockets as the nothing personal pick of the day. And do you know what the line was, Dan?
2.5.
Yeah, I got it at 2 from our friends at DraftKings. And do you know what the final was?
You lost by 1.
Rockets
That's
by
unfortunate how often that happens.
And so the only thing I was thinking about watching the end of that game is that somewhere Stu Gatz had the Rockets minus a half. Somehow that happened.
He does buy the half point. What I thought to myself is the difference in that game of 1 point is the reason DraftKings can spend so much money allowing me to spend money the way LeBron James does in the movies. Like that 1 point is the reason DraftKings can afford it.
And you can see that because they're a public company, and you can see where stock prices are, and you also can hear there's whole stories and shows about bad beats. And so every time there's a bad beat, I picture Dan and John doing the Snoopy dance.
No, that is.
Is it that correlated?
So you think, just to be clear, you think someone loses a bad beat and is suffering because of the tragic way they've lost, that me and John Skipper break into dance?
Yes. Holy cow, the Rockets only won by 1.
Yes, DraftKings, almighty DraftKings, making it rain money because of that 1 point.
Laugh as you may.
Oh, it's true.
Thank you.
It's totally true.
I've been waiting for that. We're 166 and 178 as we approach the end of the year on the Nothing Personal.
What a waste of time. What a waste of time the pick of the day is. Let's be honest about it. Because you've made 320 of them and you're 10 games under 500. You're wasting everybody's time with the pick of the day.
If people feel that.
And money. Time, but me and John Skipper Snoopy dance because he's losing you money. We've got.
You don't listen to the show enough. People fade the Nothing Personal pick of the day.
Well, but even then,
I'm a money loser.
No, but this is the beauty of your gambling advice. Because of the VIG, no matter which side they choose with you, they lose.
It's quite something, isn't it?
If they win and are 10 games over 500, the VIG costs them everything that the rest of that is.
If you want to stay after the taping, we'll be doing some reads about this very thing. If you have any interest, I'm happy to talk to you about that. Anyway, we did lose, and it was ridiculous. I'm still fuming about it. We've got a big Thursday night game. We're closing the show with this. It's a shockingly big game with the Rams and the Niners. The Niners have an opportunity to actually salvage a season with, given their injuries, they shouldn't be able to salvage. But for me, I'm going Stafford over Purdy. I'm going to take the points, and I'll tell you why. Because the Rams, they can put the Niners away in that division. They're 7-6. Niners are 6-7. It's really a must-win for both teams. And the Niners have been doing that to teams, including the Rams, in recent years. When you have a chance to do that, and I remember thinking about certain games mattered more to me. Beating the Mets always mattered more to the Phillies. The Rams can do something to the Niners, and we're going to watch them do it.
One of the great things about football, and people will appreciate what I'm about to say here, is we're 14, 15 weeks in, and either one of these teams, if I make them totally healthy, you can see them winning the Super Bowl. And both of them are playing for their lives tonight because they can also lose any game. They can be, both of these teams healthy can beat anybody. One of them won a Super Bowl. The other one's been within a sniff. It's crazy to me, that league, how it does that well.
Well, it's not just that league. Injuries, you can look at
No, but
every
I'm saying
team.
parity. I'm just talking about when the games can be crappy, but it's always Jacksonville 10, Tennessee 6. Like, just everything's close. Everything's kind of even. You know, the team with 3 wins can beat the team with 11 wins, and it's not that surprising.
And this is a year with teams that stink, Dan. There's so many teams. Coke had a great stat of the day recently that there were more teams with 3 or fewer wins at a point in the season than ever in the history of
football. It's an optical illusion. There are 5 teams you know are great, and all of the others can win any one time.
And tonight's one of those games. It's going to be the Rams +3 versus the Niners. We've been here all week at the request and with the love of Le Batard and Meadowlark. We love beating Miami. We're not at the Elser. We are at our homes, which are being protected as we speak. We are not live. and we appreciate
My home is presently being protected by Tua's security team.
armed. He actually took the podium and said
Yes.
armed. Guess what? As far as Tua is concerned, it's just business. This is nothing personal.